Now, let's start the show.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Business Awareness Hour. My name is Norman, and my co-host for this evening is the lovely Linda. Lovely Linda, say hello to everybody.
Hello, Norm's World. I say hello, everyone from the Business Awareness Hour. Welcome to our show.
That's why I have you here, because you're always so quiet and you're not very nice to me and whatever, but welcome here tonight. We're going to have a good time. How's the Beamer world?
Oh, Beamer's kicking.
Tell us
Oh my
about it.
goodness. So for those who do not know, the Beamer is an FDA Class 2 cleared medical device that helps to improve blood flow, bringing people out of stress mode and putting them into a calmer, more uh, a calmer life, calmer mode, less stress. So, but yeah, a lot of good stuff's coming down, Norm, on the with the Beamer. A lot of good reports coming into PubMed.gov. I would encourage people to go and check us out and see the clinical studies that are showing how people's lives improve with the Beamer.
In which way?
I'm sorry?
In which way do they improve? Psychological,
Oh, think about this, right? If your blood's not flowing because you're in stress mode,
right?
you're the only the majority of blood flow is going to your heart, your lungs, and your muscles because you're in fight or flight. You got to get the heck out of there. Once you're out of that mode, then the blood flows into your microcirculatory system, and all the beautiful nutrients that you ingest are going to the cells where they're very much needed.
So that's what it is, and that's what it does. And
That's
now
what it is.
we have a very, very, very special. I get turned on when people have been in the service, and then they come out and they take their serviceness, everything that they've done and things that they learned, and they do one or two things. They use it in their next career, or they use it as a sub career, whatever. This young lady, Emily Harrigan of JEH Consulting out of Houston, Texas, howdy, is that kind of person. So, welcome to the studio. Welcome to the Business Awareness Hour. And let's get everybody to know who you are. So, tell us a little about you. Where'd you grow up?
Awesome. Thanks. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here to talk with you guys. So, my, I guess, origin story, if you want to call it that. I grew up in San Antonio, Texas. I lived there my entire life. I went to John Marshall High School on the northwest side of San Antonio. So I'm basically between SeaWorld and Fiesta, Texas, for those who know San Antonio at all. But I was a Fighting Ram. I played basketball.
Oh, were you a power
I
forward?
was on varsity. What's that?
Were you a power forward?
I was,
See?
but my my senior year, it was a little odd. I was the four position, so the power forward, but nobody else on my team could bring the ball up the court and set the play. And so what I would do is I would bring the ball up, set the play, and then go down to my position. So I really kind of played a lot of different roles, I guess, on the
How
court.
could a team not? How can a team not have a point guard?
So we had point guards. They were just younger. They were
And they weren't ready.
sophomores, and they didn't. You're right. They didn't really have the confidence. And then especially, if somebody's going to full court press in that, then they would just kind of crumble. And by that time, I kind of was like, whatever, let's do this. Let's make it happen. I'm also left-handed, so
Oh,
that throws
okay.
off a lot of people because I'm left-handed. So, you know.
I got you. Hey,
She,
left-handed.
she's in her right brain there, Norm.
A left-handed
You know
guard.
that, right?
No, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Left-handed, she's in her right brain.
She's
Yeah, yeah.
a what?
She's in her right brain.
A right
right.
bright?
A left-handed is they're in the right brain. They're right in their right brain. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll just leave it like that.
Please.
Emily knows what I'm talking about.
We'll have to
Yeah.
discuss that at a later date. So now
Yeah.
Yeah.
you grew up there. You played basketball in high school. You
Yep.
graduated high school. I think you went into
Yeah.
the service. Is that right?
So I actually got a scholarship. I got a Navy ROTC scholarship
Nice.
to the University of Notre Dame. So
Nicer.
what that meant is, what's that?
I said nicer.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
So it's kind of a family thing. My dad graduated from the University of Notre Dame. My uh, my sister, both my brothers and I all graduated. And then now my niece, my oldest niece, who's also my goddaughter, is a senior. Or no, she's a junior at the University of Notre Dame. So
Can
it's
I
kind of
tell
a
you?
family thing.
Can I tell you one of my top
Yeah.
5 movies?
Please,
Rudy.
Rudy, of course.
Boy,
It's a good one.
if you don't have if you have a heart or don't have a heart and you watch Rudy, I'm telling you.
It'll
Oh,
grow 3
yeah.
times the size. Yep.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, that's a good one.
You know,
It's
he
a
was
good
like
one.
a Rocky kind of guy. I know
Yeah.
somebody else very, very well who's a Rocky kind of guy. Actually, his cell phone also has the Rocky theme.
Oh, really? Oh, that's
That
funny.
would be me.
Oh,
You hit
you
me.
have it?
You hit me. I'm getting up. It might not be the next
Oh, okay.
second, but I'm getting up. So
It may take a minute. That's funny. Awesome.
so you
Yeah, I love that.
so you went to Notre Dame.
Yes. Yep. So I was on scholarship. And so what that meant was a couple of things. So, one, I had a job when I was leaving school. So I already had a job. And then what was required of me is we did PT. So, like, physical training. So, running, whatever, really early in the morning, once a week. And then we did drill once a week. And then early in the morning. So, and then I had to take a couple of extra classes. So I was a history major. Initially, I thought I was going to be a math major, but honestly, I got to infinite sequence and series, and that just kind of blew my mind. It was too theoretical for me. So I was taking a history class that I just really enjoyed. And so I was like, I really kind of like to understand the background of things. I like to understand the story behind it. And so that kind of led me to history. But I had to take, calculus-based physics. I had to take engineer level calculus because in the Navy, it's unlike other military branches where you don't really have kind of a set job or they call it an MOS.
Well, that's a good
Really, the
idea.
Navy,
Mhm.
but that,
That's a good idea. I
Yeah.
mean, you can specialize in one thing, but being in knowledge, having knowledge of everything else is
Right.
good.
Right,
Mhm.
right. So for like officers, you would go into one of really 3 things. You would go into either being a pilot, being on a ship, or you would go into submarines. So so you had to really kind of understand that. And then I took a Navy class as well. Like we had to take a Navy class each semester. And
What's a
then my
Navy? What's a
intern-
Navy class?
So we did different things. So we had, for example, we had an ethics class, we had a Navy history class, we did one where it was like uh, it was kind of like wartime tactics a little bit.
Mhm.
We had to take naval science, and that naval science was more of kind of the basics of like gas turbines. Like how does that work?
Have
how-
you
how do
ever
you- how
have
does
you
gas
ever
turbine work?
have you ever flown in a jet? Navy
Not a
jet?
jet, not a jet, but I have been in several helicopters, and then one it's called a cod. It's not that exciting because it's basically just it's a male, it's a like the male, like physical male like courier. It's a plane, but I did get shot off of a carrier. So a carrier, to be able to get the momentum to be able to fly off, they get literally catapulted off
Right.
of the deck. And so
Wow.
that is a once in a lifetime experience for sure.
I mean, I've seen it many
that's
times on
that's an
TV.
adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. And so to be there, you're like waiting, and then it happens.
It's crazy
So I have been on that.
the size of these ships. Or it just
Oh,
the size of 3 or
Yeah,
4
yeah.
football fields.
So the carriers are that big. Yeah, the
Yeah.
carriers.
Mhm.
To see all those
Mhm,
jets and helicopters and such on deck is cool. What was your
Yeah,
job, by
it's
the
a
way?
small
What was
city.
your job in the Navy?
So I because I was a woman, and at the time women could not be on submarines, and because I have terrible eyesight, pilots were out. So being a pilot was out for me from the get-go. So I was a surface warfare officer.
Which means in
So
English?
what's that?
What does that mean?
Oh, okay. So basically,
Don't assume that I know.
Yeah, yeah, right. So I graduated the day before I got commissioned into the U.S. Navy as a officer the day before I graduated from the University of Notre Dame, and so I went to ships. So surface ships are, anything from a frigate, which is a small ship that has specific capabilities, all the way up to kind of your carriers, which obviously have all the aircraft on them. And then there's other ships that are kind of like aircraft carriers, but they're meant for like Marines or landing. So they have they carry Marines, they carry Marine uh, helicopters and planes and that sort of thing. So,
You know,
but I go ahead, sorry.
I've been on an aircraft carrier once.
Okay.
And
Do you remember the name of it?
Yeah, it was called the Intrepid. Everybody knows the Intrepid. It's based out in New York, right on the
Okay.
sorry, on the Hudson. And
Yeah.
when you walk in, you walk in and you go down the step. Everything's steel, so you go down,
Yeah.
and then you have to take a step up, to go to the next room. There's like a oval,
Right.
right?
Yes.
I
Yeah.
banged my head twice. Now me, who's so
Oh, I
short,
bet.
I banged my head twice. That
Yeah.
was my remembrance of the Intrepid.
That's funny.
So I have a question for you, Emily.
Yeah.
So when you when you were in the service,
Yeah.
how did you get into HR?
Yeah. So that's a great question. So this is the way that it works in the Navy. So you're an officer, you get assigned a ship. I happened to get my top pick, which was a guided missile destroyer ship. 550 feet ship. It holds 300 people ish. And it's got this really cool radar that allows you to get a good landscape of what's going on. So I really wanted to be on that ship because it's really fast. It's fun to drive, and
Did you ever drive it?
Stuff. So I
Pilot it?
I did. So, yeah. No, I never learned how to do the helm. I gave the orders to make it go.
Oh, okay.
So when you get on the ship, you have a couple of jobs. So one is to learn the ship and learn all of the different watch stations to make it go, and then you have kind of your day job. And so your day job is helping to keep the ship going. So like I had friends that were like, they were in charge of and really it was just a management role. You walked on and you had a team of people that already knew what they were doing, and they're very technical, and you were in charge of that group. So I had a friend who was in charge of fire control. So he had all of the FCs that were responsible for the different systems that launched missiles, for example. That was his job. So my job initially was to be electronic warfare, meaning anti-ship, like missile defense. If a missile was coming in, we had the capability to put chaff into the air, so little particles of metal into the air, for the missile to hit that. But I was in that job maybe 4 months, and the XO, so the executive officer, second in command, who is in charge of everything administrative. And when you say everything administrative, it means personnel, all the personnel charts, all the evaluations, all of the letters, all of the awards, PTO requests, or time off requests, any message that went out. He was responsible for all of that. And he was an English major, and he typed with one finger.
That's me.
So the reason I make that distinction is because he was responsible for a lot of paperwork, a lot of admin stuff. And he was very particular about words. Words have meaning. I learned that from him. But he typed with one finger. And so things would just get piled up and lost. And
Mhm.
and so, we had sailors that were like, I need to go on PTO because my wife is having a baby. And so then they would be so distracted that like during watch, they're not thinking, they're not doing their job because they're worried about taking
Mhm.
PTO. So what they did is they moved me to be his kind of right-hand person to be able to help the flow better. So I quickly
Mhm.
learned, like, I still never use the word insure because he hated that word. I don't really remember
Insure?
why. I insure, like you can
Ins-
never insure anything. Like it needs like ENSURE
Okay.
instead of like, he's like guarantee or whatever. Never use that word. And so I would like go around and I would tell people, please don't ever put this in anything you're writing because it'll get turned back, But I also learned how to, kind of help him manage his time. So in the morning, I would find all the vacation requests and I would like put them on his keyboard. So he couldn't do anything except sign those
Right.
Mhm.
But that
to
was
move them
helpful.
on.
Right.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
then I started to see the impact, because I thought I was like just moving paper, But then when that sailor is like, yes, I know I can go. Now I'm going to concentrate, get my job done before I leave, instead of like, is this going to get approved? I don't know. That's where I really started like my love of what turned out to be HR. So they just kept giving me more. So so I had the admin office, I had the personnel office. I then was over the I was over the clinic. So
You
we
were
didn't
like
have a
an
doctor.
executive officer.
Mhm.
I basically was. I mean, yeah, I mean, I basically was, but they called me HR officer because I did a lot. I did a lot for him. I was the legal officer. So any disciplinary hearing I had to do, I did like 20 separations, which I know that sounds awful, but like I had to do 20 separations. And then we have admin boards, people fight them. And I had to go against two lieutenant commander JAG officers and two different admin boards because these guys decided to do cocaine while out partying. And we had we do drug tests. And so we drug tested them and they're like, but we're not bad guys. And I'm like,
You didn't.
okay, but you're still out of the Navy,
Right.
They
Yeah.
took the
So
drugs,
yeah,
not
so it was
you.
kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Like I didn't choose to do that. So that's where it really kind of started. And then we moved from San Diego. We were forward deployed to Japan, and we had to do they called it a dissimilar hull swap. So they basically had two ships. One was in Japan already, and they didn't want to move 600 families, going like that. So they kept 60% in Japan, but put them onto our ship. And they took 40% of our and moved us. And they really needed some continuity in the wardroom. So that's really unheard of. You usually do 2 years on one ship, and then you go 2 years on a different ship, and then you go 2 years short tour.
Can I ask?
Well, they asked me to stay.
Can I ask
Yeah.
a question?
Yeah.
When you get on board the ship and you have your responsibilities whatever, and you make X number of dollars, each time that you do something, when you learn something new, does your salary go? Does it increase? Does it change?
No. It's preset. So like you could go out right now and you could see how much an O1 with this many years of experience had. Like
With how many years?
however many, like 2 years. And then you
Okay,
get
what does
promoted to
somebody
J-
with 2 years earn monthly, yearly, whatever?
I have no idea anymore. I don't know how much they earn now.
Okay.
I
I've
don't
always
know.
been curious
But-
about that. I thought you might know.
Yeah, I mean, I will say the difference is that taxes are different, right? Well, one, we don't pay for benefits. There is no benefit deduction selection. You just go to the doctor. So that was a huge learning for me.
Mhm.
Then taxes are different too, because there's so many allowances that you would get that are not taxable because of you're in the military. So like housing, when you go to like when I was deployed for 8.5 months, nothing was taxed, nothing, because I was in a hazardous zone.
Right.
So even that, and then because I was in a hazardous zone, we got extra pay because we were in a hazardous zone.
That's not the kind of overtime I would want.
No, right, exactly. I mean, God bless the Army and the Marines.
Amen.
Honestly. you
Yes,
know, because
indeed.
of what they
Yeah.
do and what they see and everything.
I'm going to
But
ask
yeah,
you
I mean,
one
it's
other
very
question
standard.
here. How does
Yeah.
somebody get in touch with you if they want to find out more about you?
More about me.
Yeah.
So I'm on LinkedIn. I have the LinkedIn. I also have a website, which is jehinterests.com. I have an email, which is my first name, Emily, at jehinterests.com. And then I have my cell phone.
Okay. There's a
And if you
reason why.
could provide that, I mean, you want to provide that, Emily?
Yeah. So it's 713-392-0954.
Okay. Was that number right? Yeah. Okay. Just
Yeah.
checking. Okay. Now let's get into. We just got out of the Navy. Now we're out of the Navy.
Yeah.
And you're finding
Yeah.
a new job for yourself. Where were you looking? What did
Yes.
you want to do?
Yeah. So so my last tour, so I did 4 years on my ship, and then I taught a class for 2 years, shore tour. And that exposed me to like adult learning and presentation skills and all of that fun stuff. But because of the time, we taught a 3-week course. I taught Marines for 3 weeks. And because it was and we always traveled. So because it was kind of an intense, like 3 weeks, we had a lot of downtime when we weren't actively teaching a class. So I started exploring, because of all the stuff that I had done that was basically HR. I was like, okay, I think I want to do HR, but I'm not sure that I have the like prerequisites for it. So I took a course online through Cornell. So Cornell has an amazing, they're known for their HR program. So I took an online course from them just to see, kind of like, I'm going to test this out, see what this is. And going through that, I realized that my two real kind of like spots that I really needed to bolster was really around like benefits and then compensation. Because again, like I said, like you had asked, compensation is set. And then benefits, you just go to the military doctor. Like there was no benefit section. So, so those were kind of the only two areas that I really didn't have. And then I took a PHR. So I took a certificate, I took the test and I passed it. And I was like, well, if I can do this, then, I want to do HR. So that's how I started. Like, that's what I decided I wanted to do. I started looking for a job because I knew I wasn't going to be in the Navy long term. I tried with a couple different recruiting firms, but the recruiting firms that were targeting veterans at the time really wanted like somebody to go into operations, or project management, or which
It's such a misnomer. It's such a misnomer. Because they think because you're in the service that it was a manual type of job versus all the work that you had done.
Yeah. And so, I just remember one recruiter was like, you want to go into HR? And I was like, yes. And he was like, well, how hard do you think that's going to be? And I was like, well, it's not hard for me because you're the recruiter trying to help me find a job. It's hard for you. Like maybe it's hard for you. I don't know, but I was really lucky. My older brother was he's still in the Navy Reserves. But he had found, when he left the military, he found this great program through GE, and GE offered a junior officer leadership program. They brought you in, you did a couple of rotations, and then you rolled off and had a full-time job. Well, I wanted to do HR. So I remember meeting with the head of the program for the oil and gas sector because they offered Wisconsin or Houston. I was like, well, I want to go to Houston. So I met with him. We went to lunch and he was like, I'm hiring you. You can do HR. You'll have all of the training programs that the junior officers have, but you're going to do HR because that's what I did. And I've been looking for somebody like you. And so it's kind of like all the stars aligned kind of thing. And he to this day is a good friend and a mentor.
How nice.
And I've worked for him twice.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, yeah,
Sometimes you just have to be, and plus, let's be honest, you have an impeccable background.
yeah.
Starting
Yeah, it does
starting
help.
starting with graduating from Notre Dame, when I was looking at different things, I didn't realize the intensity of the opportunities when you have a certain university or college after your name. Oh, I went, Notre Dame. Oh,
Yeah,
well, yeah, go ahead and hire her because
yeah,
she's
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Vassar College is another one that I had heard somebody that liberal arts college, and she was head of Homeland Security at one point, and I'm thinking, that's how that's how the conversation went in.
Right.
But so yeah, so you have an impeccable background, and I found it when you were mentioning about getting into HR, you already knew the entire operations of the ship.
Yeah, right,
So
right.
so it seems like a natural migration to get into HR because you can appreciate every aspect of every role on that ship.
Yeah, you had a taste of
Yeah,
So
that's
everything.
gave you a deeper gave you a
yeah,
deeper insight into the challenges,
yeah,
from an HR perspective, right?
yeah. And I think that's true too. Oh, go ahead.
up to this point in time, you probably
Hmm.
have an easily dozen interesting stories that you can relate to the people that are listening and watching tonight. Do you have something in
Yeah.
mind that you can mention?
Um, yes. I mean, so anytime anybody asks me this question, I always tell my dad's favorite story, which is a Navy story. I know we're talking a lot about Navy, but it's my dad's favorite story. And so, because I knew every position on the ship, and because I, got to a certain point, I was the officer of the deck. So that's the captain's representative when he's not on, because he can't be on deck 24/7, right? So he needs somebody
Mhm.
to run the ship. And so I was the officer of the deck for general quarters, which is battle station. So we're in the thick of it. Things are going wrong. I'm in charge of the ship, making sure everything's going the way it's supposed to go. And so that is his favorite story. And so I like to tell people that. I'm really great in the moment, in a crisis moment. I can it's kind of like, what is it? Field of Dreams or whatever, we clears the mechanism or whatever, and it just kind of goes silent. Like, that's what I do. And then I put things where they need to be. And then I can go once everything's done and, decompress. So I think that's one of my best skills. But he just loves that I was the officer of the deck. And then I think my other kind of fun story that I like to tell is I was in CERCOR. So CERCOR was my second job in HR as HR professional, but I had just gotten promoted to the HR director of HR operations. And basically that meant I had all the policies, procedures, but I also had the systems. And I'm definitely an early adopter of technology. I love technology, but I also love data. And I know how important it is. And so I had these systems, and I'm like, I want it to do this, this, and this, and I just remember having a conversation one day with a software developer, and I was like, I don't know, make it happen, push the button, there's a magic box, make it happen. And he was like, I need to pull the curtain back for you and explain to you how software works, and in the nicest way possible. He was a really nice guy, but he was like, here, look behind the curtain. It's just like building a gas turbine or
Just like building a gas
a
turbine.
valve,
Now we all do that.
right? Yeah, I mean, it's just like building a valve. Is like software. You have to put the pieces together, and then you have to test it, and you have to somebody's actually writing code, and then you put it together, and then you test it, and you make sure that it's right. And he's like, there's a whole life cycle to get that one thing that you just want to flip the switch on. Like, that doesn't really exist. And that was a real light bulb moment for me, which helped me go into my most previous role, where we were half operations, inventory of pipe, but then we also had a homegrown software that we were developing where I had to understand, their developers and quality and all of that. So that was that was an interesting moment for me, light bulb moment, in my career, where I just used to be that push the button girl or flip the switch.
You were
and now
also
I
an
know that's not
you
how it
were
works.
also an instructor. You were the Navy teaching the Marines how to load an Air Force
Oh,
transport,
yes.
right?
Yes. Yes.
So
Yeah.
so the lady was in charge of the armed forces.
Yeah, yeah, yep. So, yep, I remember walking. I in an attempt to kind of meet the Marines where they were, I walked in with their uniform or a version of their uniform on the first day I ever taught class. And Marines, I love Marines, but they're very proud and they're very particular, and they will pick you apart.
Uh-huh.
Um, like no other. And so I walked up, and like I was uncomfortable in the uniform because I didn't really know how to wear it, and they were uncomfortable because you could tell them they were like gig line and your belts and like what's up with your boots, and so it like no everybody was distracted. Nobody remembered what I talked about, rightfully so. So the next day I walked in my uniform, even though I was a Navy person. I walked into my uniform and it was spot on because I knew how to wear it. I felt really good, and they did too. We all kind of relaxed, and they participated more, and everybody was able to learn. And I think that has stayed with me. It's like I really got to stay true to who I am as a person,
Absolutely.
regardless. Regardless, it doesn't really matter. And so that was like a really important lesson for me that I still carry to this day. Sometimes I struggle with
Great
it,
story.
but I really try to think back to it, right? So,
All right, what we're going to do right now, because believe it or not, we're almost 3/4 of the way into this show. Believe it or
oh my
not.
gosh.
Exactly right. So we're going to take a little commercial break, just a minute or two,
Okay.
and then we're going to be right back.
Okay.
So, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We'll be right back here with Emily. Thank you.
My name is Lisa Rodino. I am a commercial loan advisor and broker. Have you been finding that your business's cash flow is not where you need it to be? Have you found yourself taking from your personal accounts to meet your business's obligations? Have you found that those quick solutions of quick money are starting to get awfully expensive? My job is to find the right funding products for my clients so they can get back to working in their business and give me the task of finding the best options for their situation. Give us a call today to learn more. 516-268-0350.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Friend Entertainment USA. My name is Norman Wasserman. I am also known as the Music Man. Let me just tell you a little bit about Friend Entertainment. We put on concerts for charities, and we do that everywhere from New York to Las Vegas. We do R&B, Motown, rock and roll, jazz, whatever it is that you wish. Friend Entertainment will deliver the best of the best for you and your charity. Here are some of the names of the talent that have performed with us on our stage. Stevie Wonder, Tina Turner, The Temptations, Earth, Wind and Fire, the one and only ELO, Elton John himself, Kool and the Gang, and the fabulous Donna Summer. Go to our website, friendentusa.com. That's www.friendentusa.com, or feel free to call us at 631-698-9696. 631-698-9696, and we'll see you at the next show.
Okay, welcome back to the Business Awareness Hour and our guest, Emily. We're going to really discuss now who you are and what you do. What's with this fractional stuff? What really does that mean?
Yeah. So it is I feel like it's a newer term, maybe the last couple of years. And where a lot of people hear it, I think, is more in kind of like the CFO space, or even like the chief operating officer, maybe even sales. But really, fractional is a great way to say part-time without saying part-time. but it also has a different meaning, I think, than what part-time really means. And it also kind of takes that consultant role to the next level. So for me, I have a fractional HR business that focuses on businesses with 50 employees or less. And that's really the demographic that they don't need, don't want, can't afford a full-time HR professional, but they really need that support. And so the fractional piece comes in where we can still be a partner. Like we can still partner together. I can still understand your business. I can still come in, know the people, see what's going on, help you navigate some of those HR issues, but you don't have to pay a full-time me. So really, it looks, it's kind of a retention kind of agreement or retainer type of agreement, but you get somebody like me with the 16 years in corporate HR, various sizes of companies, seeing the good, bad, the ugly, all of that experience, but I can help you navigate some of that within your small business.
Do you do payroll also?
So I am not a payroll expert, but what I do bring is I have enough knowledge to be able to answer some of those questions, but I can also help you find the right payroll system for you. So whatever that may be, whatever that looks like, if you just want payroll, or maybe you want more of like an HR, like full HR management system, which really means kind of onboarding tools, performance management, compensation planning if you need to do that, that full gamut. So anything from just a payroll provider to kind of that full HR management system.
So as fractional, if you take the word fractional apart, it's a piece of. So
Right.
as a fractional HR person, how many different parts do you have to, you said you can do payroll. I guess you do,
Yeah.
you do recruiting when it's necessary.
So I think the fractional piece is more about the time.
It's the time spent.
Yeah. Sort of, yeah. So it's
Okay. But if you do a
instead
little
of
bit of
me
time
being-
here and a little bit of time there, and it's all
Right.
part of the pie.
Right, correct. Yep. So I think that the fractional piece is more where I'm not a full-time employee,
You're not a
but
traditional
I'm still
person.
part of your team. Right, but I'm still part of your team, right? So I think that's the fractional piece. But to answer your question, I am not a recruiter. I love recruiters. Bless recruiters.
Thank you.
I've never been one. I just, that's not me.
35
but I have-
years.
Thank
35
you so
years
much
I
for
was a
your
recruiter.
service. On behalf of all HR professionals. But so I'm not a recruiter. I really like to, I live in the space where the employee is it's your employee. So onboarding them, making sure they have a great experience, development, making sure they understand the framework that there is, how do we work? What does that look like? Performance management, and then also graceful exit. So
What about employee
especially right now,
manuals?
too.
Do you write employee manuals too?
Yes. So that's the piece that I think sets me apart from
Right.
a lot of my compadres, I would say. I like policies. I like data. I like, making sure that there are policies and ground rules in place for not just the business, but also for the employees. Because I think that's really important. Because the business leader or the owner doesn't want to spend time, dealing with the people issues. And a lot of people issues can be handled if you give them some
Right.
guardrails. Yeah,
So
that's where I come in. I help with the guardrails.
Yeah.
we're going to turn this
Yeah.
over now to the lovely Linda, and she's going to take a look at your website, and we're going to go over
Okay.
with our website for a bit. Linda,
Great.
I'm not ready. Can we just?
yeah, I
was
can.
looking at all the-
You know I can, so that's not a problem.
Yeah.
All right,
So-
let's
so
talk
just,
about
give
some
me a
of
couple
these.
minutes.
Let's talk about these HR myth bursting. What's the most important HR myth you'd like to debunk with your HR expertise, and how would you like to set the record straight?
Yes. the biggest HR myth out there is that, you know, HR is not your friend. I hear that a lot. I've heard that a lot, that HR is not your friend. And I think to a certain extent that's true, but also like you don't want me to be your friend, right? Like I'm there to be a conduit for the employee and the manager or leadership or the company to be able to be successful. So, you know, I may have to deliver a tough message. I may have to help a manager deliver that tough message, you know, but I am there to advocate for employees behind the scenes. You know, I'm doing the compensation reviews. I'm talking about what benefits we can provide. And a lot of times managers, as an HR person, I love that the managers get to deliver that positive message, because you know what, that helps them do their job better, you know, build that camaraderie, whatever that is. So they get all the good, which is great. And I'm fine with that. When there's bad, sometimes I'm the bad guy, and I'm okay with that too. But you know, I shouldn't be your friend. You shouldn't want me to be your friend. You should want me to be an ally. You know, from that perspective as an employee, but also know that like we all work for a company, right? We're all working for a company. But I really do, I sit in the middle. Like I'm here to support the business, right? Make sure the business is doing what they need to do. I want them to be profitable. I want them, you know, I want us all to be able to make lots of money so that we can make money, right? Like that's part of my job. My other job is to make sure that I'm an advocate for the employee. So if there's something happening, like let's say there's layoffs, like how do we make that as graceful as we can? How do we make that, you know, within business, you know, our business capability, how do we soften that blow? You know, those are the types of things that I am between the two. And so I think that's a big myth, that HR is not your friend. Well, you're right, but like I shouldn't be either.
Indeed. So I will take over here for a second. Looking at your webpage, I see you have 3 different options for prospective clients.
Yeah.
Your core HR, I think you really covered that right. So let's talk about the projects. What is one I see here? Acquired company job structure implementation is one of your projects. What is that all about, Emily?
Yeah. So in addition to kind of the fractional work where I do the core HR, you know, infrastructure replacement, there's some of the projects. So it's amazing how many like mergers and acquisitions happened in the small business world. Almost every other person I talk to, they're like, oh, 2 businesses merged. And although it's small, you know, there are things that need to be put into place. So especially with 2 different companies, like what does that job structure look like? What are those titles? Because as much as people say, oh, job titles don't matter, they matter to everybody.
Oh,
right.
indeed.
Like trust. Right. And then also, you know, making sure that people have clear roles and responsibilities in this new world together. So I've done that several times. I did it a couple of times with GE. I did it a couple of times with CIRCOR. And so the projects, the second page really is like a list of all the projects that I've done in my different companies, just to kind of show everybody what I've done in my past, and kind of a little smattering of, hey, not only do I say I can do it, but here's proof of what I've done in the past.
So I could see, as you were mentioning about the different mergers in today's economy, you're going to see more and more of that.
Yeah.
Because how can I serve? I mean, you see some of the gas stations, they have a Dunkin' Donuts and they have a few other things. So I could see that.
Sure.
Where your expert guidance comes in is the liquidation of a subsidiary company with the acquired company structure or job structure. I could see that kind of blending. At some point you start the project and you go into expert guidance. Yes.
Yeah. So I think with that one, so the liquidation of the company that's like not a fun project, right? Nobody wants the company to be liquidated. And so where my expert advice really came in for that was coaching the leader and through that process, because he really needed a safe place and a sounding board. And that's really my role as well. So we would have conversations. He would talk about his, frustrations or his concerns or his worry. And we would, kind of work through that a little bit together and then figure out, okay, how are we going to move forward to help the employees? So then when he got up in front of them, as though it was, it's not that he was going to be sunshine and happy about it, but he was going to be able to kind of be strong for those employees. But it's hard to be a leader at the top like that and deliver those really tough messages. You have to have an outlet. And that's really, again, where I come into play, and I can help with that. I can be that sounding board. And I think that's really important. And that's, again, why, I'm not, I don't have an hourly rate. I have a flat rate, because I don't want you to wait like an attorney. I used to wait to call an attorney, and I'd have a list of 15 things, and I'd be like, okay, we're going to get through all of these. Right. I want him or her to be able to call me and say, okay, let's talk through this. Can we talk about this? Whatever it is. So that's where the expert guidance really comes into play.
Emily, I got a question for you.
Conflict resolution. Oh, go ahead.
My question is, do you have a special industry that was an industry that you specialize in?
So I come from oil and gas. My whole, between the Navy and the rest of my career is all oil and gas. I do not restrict myself to oil and gas by any means. I think that all small, any small businesses would benefit from what I do. So right now I have a couple of potential clients that are in kind of the food industry. I have another that's in marketing. I have another that was like a medical facility. But I think where I can really shine, and what's really important, is that I have worked from kind of the shop floor, blue collar, all the way up to CEO executive suite. And I would do that in the same day. So I'm very flexible, and I know how to kind of flip the switch depending on who you're talking to and when you're talking to them. And so that breadth of experience helps me be able to do a lot of industries.
Has Mike Weiner introduced you to Maribel Rodriguez?
I don't, yes.
Okay, so you have spoken to her.
I think so, yes.
Okay, good. If you find out that you hadn't, just let me know.
Okay, I will, yes.
Lynn?
Oh, okay. I didn't want to step on your toes there,
Well,
Norm.
other people
because you
have.
know how I get.
No,
Well,
go and
that's
get
just
it.
Yeah. So let's talk about conflict resolution a little bit, if you don't mind, Emily,
Sure.
because I imagine I've seen it in a lot of different industries. What is your protocol for handling that? How do you work something like that with a business owner?
Yeah. So I will say not one thing fits all, right, for everything. And it really does depend kind of on the scenario. But I find that everybody's got to kind of have a cool head, right? So they got to get to a place where we can all have a cool head and have a conversation that may have some emotion behind it, but let's stick to the facts, have that conversation. Let's stick to the facts, and ultimately find a resolution that works, but also for me, keeps the business safe. That's for the business owner. That's the most important thing. We got to make sure that the business is safe from anything that potentially could happen. So it's all about risk mitigation. So let's think through all the scenarios of what could happen with it because of this conflict, or as a result of the decision we make due to the conflict. Because really, we want to make sure that we minimize that risk for whoever it is. But really, I think the most important is kind of cooler heads prevail.
Sure.
If people need to go home, or they need to go take a break, or whatever it is, I think that's really kind of the most important part for me.
Do you find that your training in the Navy actually enhanced your ability to do conflict resolution?
Yes, yes, because we had to. When you're on a ship that's 505 feet long with 300 people and you're away from home for 8.5 months, and we were at sea, 30 days at a time minimum, and then we pull into port for like 3 days, and then we would leave again. It was critical to be able to work through issues in a way that was productive, because the next day you're going to be on the 2 a.m. to 7 a.m. Shift watch shift with these people, right? So
Sure.
yeah, I think it really did help a lot, because you almost had to.
So in your experience in outside of the military, right,
Yeah.
with doing the conflict resolution, do you find that your I want to say how to put this. When talking to people, you're able to get them at an even keel more successfully because of your training?
I think I've learned how to do it. Like, I think I've taken some hard, I've got some hard knocks in there. I've made a ton of mistakes. And I think because I've made mistakes that I've learned from that, and that's really has taught me how to do that conflict resolution. A lot of times it's a simple miscommunication. Somebody heard something wrong.
Sure.
And also a lot of times people don't talk to each other. They don't go to the lowest level. They'll run to the manager, who then talks to the other manager. And if the two had just talked initially, it would all have been resolved. Right. So I am a big proponent of lowest level possible. And then if it doesn't resolve, then you start to kind of bring in the next level. Right.
So bringing in your processes when you're evaluating a prospective client,
Yeah.
you can actually, or it would be beneficial to implement this type of processing on how to handle to avoid this. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, excellent. Do you have anything you'd like to add to that, Norm?
When you talk about problems within a company, sometimes I'm just thinking back to I had 100 people working with me and my partner, and I was directly responsible for about 30 or 40 of them. We covered a wide array of different jobs, and people would get a job opening, and ABC company, multi-billion-dollar company, and they speak to Steve Lewis, and Steve Lewis gives Bobby the opening, and then an hour later, Richard comes into the office and said, I got this job. When did you get it? I got it this morning, whatever. We didn't punch and know what the times were. I said, I tell you what, why don't you go get Bobby and come into my office? And we would sit. We would sit down. This is cute story. We would sit down, and this one would start yelling at the other one, and this one's yelling at the other one. So I said, and they said, I think it's only right. And I said, you didn't see what I did. I said, be quiet. This is what we're going to do. Okay? You're either going to make up an agreement between the two of you right now sitting here, or I'm going to make a decision. And if I make a decision, one of you are not going to be too happy. So what do you think you would like to do? I think we should. I think we should split it. Okay, sounds like a great idea. Have a great day, guys. Goodbye. But that was like what you were talking about, going to the middle manager or senior manager and then having this conversation. Whatever. But they worked it out. They were kind of like pushed, one way or the other, but they worked it out. And that's the way businesses should, especially in sales departments. I mean, because there's always somebody, and I'm sure about recruiters, and the fees and such that get, they're very sizable. I mean, back in the day, when I was recruiting, you could average a salary of $60,000. You were paying me $15,000 to go and hire that person. I was getting 25%, for my services
It's
for the
even more
time
than
and
that
effort.
now.
Yeah. As the time that I left, it started creaming up to 30. I think it's frozen like between 25 and 30%, depending on the job. I mean, if it's a staff job,
Yeah.
whatever, if it's a specialty job, it's something that needs an extra search or two, that be it.
Yeah.
We're getting close to time, aren't we? You give me that look.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
You have been just, we need another hour with you.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
you were exactly the perfect person that Linda and I love to have on this show. We don't have to really lead you with questions. You're open, you're out there, you're aware of everything. People now are going to be aware of Emily. And I
Great.
want to really thank you
okay.
for being on the show. Look at the smile on you. I mean, it's great.
Thank you. No, thank you. This is great.
This is
a
great.
lot of fun.
I'm glad you had a good time. But it's not just about having a good time. Really, we are concerned that the awareness will come to you. It may not come to you tomorrow,
Right.
and Linda can be the first one to tell you, it may not come to you tomorrow, but somewhere down the near road, someone is going to wake up one day and say, let me go take another look. And by the way,
Yeah.
you're going to have a video. You're going to use it if you want to. Make it into commercials. You can take portions of it and turn it into and put it on your website. By the way, your website's
Okay,
gorgeous.
okay.
Your website is really
thanks.
gorgeous. Good job.
I
Did you
did
do
it
it?
myself.
Did you?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Very good.
Really.
Thank you.
Yeah,
help
there's
from
just
me,
one question
but
before
I
you go.
did.
I got to ask this question.
Yeah.
What do you do for fun?
Sure. So
What does
I
Emily
have
do for
3
fun?
kids. Yep, I have 3 kids, and so
Oh,
Where did you have
what
time?
they do for fun, I do for fun. No, I coach. So my twins are 10, and I coach their basketball team. And
Mhm.
it's I-9, so it's play 30 minutes or practice 30 minutes, play 30 minutes. This year we have an all-girl team for the first time ever, and I get so much joy from coaching these little girls. Our first game we scored 5 points. Last game we scored 18 because they listened
Wow.
and executed. I mean,
nice.
it is the most fun. I run with them. I'm like, yeah. I'm a cheerleader. That's what I really enjoy that. It really brings a lot of joy. And that's what I like to do.
I have twin girls too. Except
That's right.
Oh, very good.
my twin girls are in their 40s.
Okay.
Okay. And I go to my grandkids' soccer games and basketball games and whatever. And actually,
Yeah.
I got into the music business, concert business, from doing a
Mm-hmm.
fundraiser for the sports association in my town.
Oh,
That's
wow.
how we
wow.
got into it. So watch out. You may be doing a concert one day with the Music Man. The awareness guy turns into the Music Man like that.
That's right. That's right.
Well, I want to
So
thank
how
you
can we
again.
get in
Yes.
touch with you? Yep. Should we do that, Norm? How can they get in touch
Absolutely.
with her?
Absolutely. Your turn,
So,
Emily.
no-
How do we
Emily,
get in
if you'd
touch
like
with
to
you?
share.
There we go.
Oh, yeah. So LinkedIn is a good way, or even just emailing me, going to my website, my phone number. I'm here, and I'm excited.
And what is your
to work with
website?
people.
If you
It's
could share, Emily, if you could share
Yeah,
your
it's-
website?
it's JEHinterests.com.
Very good.
Well,
Any
I
other
want-
questions, Norm?
No, I want to, not a question, I want a statement. It's a pleasure, absolute pleasure having you here today. You see how when I
you.
talk about the show off air, at the network meetings and so on, it's a totally different
Yeah.
thing. Even if you do a one-on-one with someone and spent an hour,
Yeah.
the hour that you'll spend
Yeah.
here is totally different than the hour that you'll spend talking to that one. And we're doing the same thing. We're doing the
Yeah.
same thing that you would do on a one-on-one, except our reach is a bit
Yes.
better, and
Yeah.
and the conversations come out differently, and that's it.
Sure.
But again,
Yeah, for sure. No, this
kudos
is
to
great.
you.
Thank you.
Really, really great
Thanks.
job. I thank you. All right, you just stay where you
Yes.
are, and we're going to say goodnight to everybody. Just hang out for a little bit.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
All right. Did I tell you she was going to be a winner? Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Any words about Beamer that you want to leave anybody with, or contact information?
Better life, or better, oh my goodness, I can't. get your life in order, so to speak, with Beamer. Get your health in order with Beamer.
I'm telling you, I still remember the first time I heard about BMW. I swore I thought it was a BMW. I had I had
yeah.
no idea what you were talking about. And now that's all I look for is like Beamer, information about Beamer,
Yeah.
helping people, feel better about themselves physically, mentally, That's it. Well, I thank you for being here this evening, and I know you'll be here next week as well.
It's
And
always a pleasure.
it's my pleasure. And Emily, again, great job. I appreciate it. And
Thank you.
we thank everybody for tuning in and listening. And we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. This is a triple week. There's a Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and I am tired. When the time Thursday evening at 8 o'clock comes, I am beat. But anyway, good night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
This has been the Business Awareness Hour with Norman, the Awareness Guy. Thanks for tuning in. See you